Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here. This is going to be my patch 10.1 Affliction Warlock DPS guide. In it, we're going to be covering class talents, spec talents, single target talents, AOE talents, the tier set, rotations, pets, and a few things, few and far between. Now, as always, if you like any week auras or add-ons, profiles in the video, links to my Twitch and Discord down below are all for free for you guys. Links appear to Twitter and all that kind of stuff on social media and Patreon. If you'd like to support me there. And with that being said, let's just jump right on into it. Getting into Affliction Warlock talents, there is a general outline you follow for the class tree, which looks for the most part something like this. You have essentially two floater points you can put wherever you want. Most put it into Fiendish Stride, giving you less damage taken from Burning Rush, but they can also go into things like Dark Fury for a shorter Shadow Fury cooldown, Banish if you want that, Horrify / Nightmare, Profane Bargain, a handful of options, different spots, whether it's more throughput, more utility, all that kind of stuff. But this is the general structure you follow, putting 1 point in Fel Domination, 1 point in Burning Rush, early defensives in Demon Skin, Fel Armor, Curses of Enfeeblement, putting a point in Coil here for self-healing. Demonic Embrace and Demonic Fortitude are stamina increases. Demonic Inspiration and Wrathful Minion are DPS increases. Grab your Gateway, grab Shadow Fury, grab Dark Pact, putting 2 points here in Sakathar's Guile for an agony damage increase, 2 points here in Sargari Technique for a Shadow Bolt and Drain Soul damage increase, typically 1 point, usually always a point here in Soul Link, then 2 points in Synergy, 2 points in Soul Conduit, and 1 point in Inquisitor's Gaze. Typically 1 point in Soul Burn as well for the utility that it brings. And like I said, if you want a point, in Banish, you can pull it in Fiendish Stride, or if you want it in Dark Fury, you can put it there. To a similar extent, put it in Horrify Nightmare, but for the most part, this is the general structure the Warlock class tree follows. Now, getting into the Affliction tree, there are 3 builds I want to show you here. This is going to be the single target build for Affliction, at least currently what it looks like to be, heading into patch 10.1. You're playing Unstable Affliction. Wrath and Agony has moved spots from here to here. 2 points in Dark Virtuosity for another Shadow Bolt and Drain Soul damage increase, similar to this trait here. Very, very similar. 2 points in Kindled Malice, 1 point in Nightfall, 2 points in Shadow's Embrace, 1 point in Drain Soul, 1 point in Siphon Life in single target, 1 point in Vile Taint. It does appear to be the higher swimming talent over Singularity, even with the tier bonus being a thing. 1 point in Soul Swap. Important to note here, Soul Swap is not a thing you really hit in single target. It is here to bridge the gap to Withering Bolt. We used to go through here, but this trait is very undertuned. You don't play it anymore. You go through here and say, hey, I'm wasting a point, save a point somewhere else, and get Withering Bolt. That second point that used to be here essentially goes into Pandemic Invocation, which is solid in single target. 2 points in Malignancy, 2 points in Withering Bolt, obviously, 1 point in Dark Lair, a point in Haunt, 2 points in Vitality, 2 points in Haunted Soul, giving you a more of a single target damage increase. I guess it's sort of, a universal increase. It's, around your target and stuff. 1 point in Crescendo, 2 points, or 1 point in Creeping Death, 2 points in Malefic Affliction, and then 1 point in Dread Touch. And this is going to be your big single target bread and butter row here, giving you a dot, basically tick increase, giving you a big UA increase, and this one giving you more dot damage as long as you maintain Malefic Affliction and Rapture at the right time from Dread Touch. Also 1 point in Sacrifice over here, because you still sack your pet. Now, this is a single target build. Dark Lair is an incredibly flat CD. It really doesn't do much at all, but it is still better than playing a point anywhere else by a small margin at this point. Shifting gears here, this is going to be what I'd say is like the AOE M+ build. It can change a bit. There are some builds that play this row here, and they play not this row, they play Haunted Soul. Some builds play this row and play in the Dread Touch. There are some variations, but this is going to be probably like the best, just strongest, consistent CD build, having Soul Rot every pack, doing big AOE every pack, and having good single target, again, in Siphon Life and Vile Taint. Now, you're not playing 2 points in Dark Virtuosity. You're not playing Soul Swap. You're not playing Pandemic Invocation. You're playing Soul Flame. Big AoE when mobs die. 1 point in Seed of Corruption. 1 point in Sow the Seeds. This is going to be your spender in AoE when you're trying to do mass damage. You're playing a point coming out of Sacrifice into Soul Rot. 2 points in Gluttony, which decreases the cooldown of Soul Rot whenever UA ticks. 1 point in Dark Harvest, which gives you basically a crit and haste amp whenever you cast Soul Rot. 1 point in Haunt. 1 point in Creeping Death for those single target / universal damage increase elements. Dark Lair, 2 points in Malevolent Visionary, increasing Dark Lair damage and duration. And then Grim Reach, making your Dark Lair basically AoE on every mob. Now, this build basically has CDs every pull. This should typically sync your Soul Rot cast to basically every Vial Taint being half a minute or 25 seconds whenever you get your 4-piece. I think it's your 2-piece. You should have a Soul Rot to pair with basically every single Vial Taint, which means you can go into a pack, apply your UA, precast it, and just go, you know, Vial Taint Seed, Seed Vial Taint, Soul Rot, and start spamming and blow everything up pretty much every single pack. It brings solid single target, still having Siphon Life, still having Vial Taint, still having some single target elements, but also having very strong, consistent AoE damage. Now, the last build here is going to be a bit of a hybrid build. This build's seen a lot in raiding where you want that single target element, but also a bit of AoE at times, right? So, same build up here, shifting points out of Malevolent Visionary, out of Grim Reach, nothing in this row here, shifting back into the Haunted Soul row. Seize Vitality, Haunted Soul, Haunt. Once again, going into Dread Touch here, coming through Malefic Affliction, excuse me. The main thing, similar to the pure single target build. The main difference here, swapping back to that pure single target build, watch the nodes that change. You're pulling points out of Dark Virtuosity, out of Soul Swap, and out of Pandemic Invocation, and you're putting them in Seed, in Sow, and Soul Flame, giving you strong single target elements, an option to spam Seed and AoE, but at the same time, an option to, hey, shift towards casting Rapture if there's a prio mob or it's back to single target. You have the elements of both. You get the best of both worlds. If mobs are dying a lot, Soul Flame can do incredible cleave damage if they die around other mobs, leading to a decent bit of padding, but at the same time, damage is damage. Taking a look at Affliction Warlock's 10.1 tier bonus, it is relatively exciting to play with, changing your playstyle a little bit, but also not incredibly powerful when it comes to raw numbers compared to Demo or even Destro. Your 2-piece has Vial Taint cooldown reduced by 5 seconds, and Phantom Singularity's cooldown is reduced by 12 seconds, making Vial Taint a 25-second cooldown and making Singularity a 33-second cooldown. On top of that, Vial Taint and Singularity both have their damage increased by 60%. The 4-piece states enemies damaged by Singularity gain Infirmity for its duration, and enemies damaged by Vial Taint also gain Infirmity. It says 10 seconds, but honestly, it's just for its duration. So if you extend Singularity or Vial Taint with Dark Lair, it increases their duration, which both of them tick for their duration. I'm not sure if it's a tooltip error or it's something like that. I'm not really sure, but either way, it's for their duration for both of them. The actual effect increases the target's damage taken by 10%. Which is relatively impactful. Affliction Warlock deals damage around its Rapture windows, which are typically when you're casting your Vial Taint or your Singularity, because Malefic Rapture deals more damage to the target based on the number of dots that are active on the target. So you have that Vial Taint you're applying or that Singularity you're applying, and you also have that 10% damage increase on top of that. Plus the 2-piece gives you those effects, Vial Taint or Singularity, more often, while also increasing their damage by 60%. And that damage increase also compounds and stacks a bit with Dread Touch. So a lot of synergy with the AF 2-piece, 4-piece. It's not as strong as it may seem when it comes to raw numbers. It's still decent. It's still worth acquiring for sure, but it's not as strong as, say, Demonology, for example. Now, the one downside here is that casting both Vial Taint and Singularity on cooldown, which you want to do, it encourages that, basically means that your Singularity lines up with your Dark Lair around the 220, probably like 230-ish mark, depending when you cast the first one. You're basically holding your Dark Lair for like 15-ish seconds if you're playing Singularity. And Vial Taint is about a 10 to 12 second hold if you're casting them both on cooldown, which you want to do. You don't want to hold Vial Taint or Singularity. You want to cast them on cooldown, and whenever they align with Dark Lair, then you cast it. In the end, Dark Lair is not very impactful in the first place, but it is a bit of an awkward synergy. But in the end, it's still a pretty fun tier bonus. Now, as far as Affliction Warlock's single target opener and rotation is concerned, it honestly really isn't that involved. It's pretty simple and, being honest, pretty boring once you get the hang of it. This is playing the Haunted Soul build here. Now, we're still playing Vial Taint over Singularity, and the big thing for, I guess, ease the following here, I've added a weak aura down here that shows the cast that I'm casting. Basically, when I do, I'll add text in the screen somewhere as well. The big thing, you want to start the boss by precasting a Haunt, which has travel time, and precasting an Unstable Affliction, which will hit the boss when it's pulled, and then go from there. So the opener looks like this: precast a Haunt, precast Unstable Affliction, Agony, Corruption, Siphon Life, drain the 3 stacks of Shadow's Embrace right here, 2, 3, then cast Vial Taint and Trinkets, Potions, whatever you have, Dark Lair. Besides this, or at this point, you want to Rapture 3 times, getting 3 stacks of MA, Then a fourth time to proc Dread Touch, refresh your Haunt, cast Drain Souls here, and for the most part, you want to dump as many Raptures as you can while you have extra dots active, like Vile Taint, like Singularity or Soul Rot, but at the same time, you don't want to spend too many where you can't maintain Dread Touch, which is an 8-second buff. Basically, we can Vile Taint again here, catch a Corruption, catch a Siphon Life, Rapture a little bit. You want to make sure that you're maintaining Dread Touch as much as humanly possible, while filling with Drain Souls, filling with other Rapture casts, refreshing dots, because when Dread Touch falls, you lose a lot of your damage. It's a good portion of it, increasing a lot of your dot damage. So a Rapture again here to catch this. The big thing here, Vile Taint, a 25-second cooldown, my 4-piece on, so you have it quite often. We're going to Rapture again here, we can Vile Taint here, get a couple Raptures in, Rapture, refresh Corruption, refresh Haunt, catch Siphon Life, refresh UA, Drain Soul a little bit, Rapture, catch that. There's a proc there. Keep draining. Now, Affliction's opener is also pretty dependent on RNG. If you get a good bit of Crescendo procs, which are instant cast Raptures and things, it makes it a lot easier to string out Dread Touch to get more Raptures and all that kind of stuff. If you don't, it still isn't too bad, but it takes a bit more micromanagement, keeping an eye on Dread Touch and once again not letting it fall. Now, I've been casting Vile Taint on cooldown for the most part here, and the interesting thing, like I mentioned before, in the tier section, if you look at my Vile Taint cooldown being right about here, in my Dark Glare, there's about 10 seconds between them, and it favors Vile Taint, which means that we're going to cast Vile Taint on cooldown here in a second or two, but we're not going to have it for Dark Glare the moment it comes off cooldown. So we'll Vile Taint right here, catch my Corruption, catch Dread Touch, Haunt, Rapture a little bit, and at this point, we're holding our Dark Glare for the next Vile Taint, which can be a bit awkward, but, you know. And at the same time, you sort of want to try and pool shards a little bit, so you have as many to dump as possible during every Rapture window, during your Dark Glare. So it's a bit of a balancing act, right? Rapture again here. We have Vile Taint coming up in 2 seconds. We're going to Rapture one more time here. We're going to go Vile Taint, all Siphon Life, and I guess we'll probably Corruption here because I'm a little behind on it. We'll Dark Glare and begin the Rapture spam. Rapture a bunch. Just Rapturing. Casting Haunt here, catch our Shadow's Embrace and refresh that. Drain Soul a little bit. And this is basically the gist of Affliction in single target. It's really not very complicated. You just maintain dots. Don't let them fall. The important thing, don't let Agony fall and don't let Unstable Affliction fall. Because if either fall, this ramps, takes a while to ramp, and this controls basically Dread Touch as well as Malefic Affliction, giving you a large increase as long as there's a UA active on a target with MA stacks. Besides that, it's rinse and repeat. It's pretty simplistic, and yeah, that's basically it. Now, when it comes to Affliction's AOE rotation, when you're playing the more Soul Rot, Dark Harvest build with Grim Reach, things are similar. You don't play Dread Touch anymore. You still build around those Rapture windows. Whenever you have Vile Taint active, you spam that in single target. But your AoE rotation does change a bit. You're incorporating Soul Rot as well as Dark Glare being more relevant with Grim Reach and Malevolent Visionary. So the way you want to open up here, the way Dark Glare works now is he does more damage. It's spread out via Grim Reach based on the number of dots that are on its current target. It doesn't harvest dots from all the mobs anymore. It's the current target. So one target you want to fully stack with Siphon Life, Unstable Affliction, Agony, Corruption, everything, and that will extrapolate it all out onto the remainder of the pack. So the way you want to open here, let's say this is my main target, right? So we're going to go into a pack. Say the tank is pulling the pack now. We can precast Seed of Corruption. Pack's pulled. Vile Taint, Unstable Affliction, Haunt, Siphon Life, Trinkets, whatever, Soul Rot, Dark Glare, and begin Seed spam. Seed, and watch my damage climb here. 140, 170, 200, 230, 280 right there briefly, 260, and this is without Bloodlust and big effects and all that, and honestly, that's pretty much it. You want to make sure you catch your dots here. Your agonies are going to start falling soon. You want to maintain your Siphon Life on your main target here. Also, make sure to catch your Unstable Affliction. Cast your Haunt here, cast a Seed to keep your Corruptions up, which isn't that bad to do. And besides that, once again, you're just spamming Seed outside of everything else, right? Now, I'm waiting on my actual Soul Rot here to come back around, because once again, Soul Eater's Gluttony basically syncs Soul Rot with roughly every Vile Taint. It's a little bit off due to the fact that our bonus decreases Vile Taint's cooldown a bit again, but what it means is that for basically every pack, you should have that precast Seed into Vile Taint into Soul Rot for the haste and crit damage amp right here coming out of Dark Harvest, and that's the gist of it. You maintain your agonies. You have to refresh agony manually once between every Vile Taint. Spam Seed and AoE. Keep your prior target dotted up with UA and Haunt, and time Siphon Life if your Dark Glare's out. And that's pretty much it. You have, once again, this same profile of being able to go into a pack and just go Seed of Corruption, Vile Taint, UA, Haunt. If you want Siphon Life without Dark Glare, sure. Soul Rot and Spam Seed. You can do this basically every single pack. You have Dark Glare once every 2 minutes, but even outside of that, with this kind of burst damage profile, that Soul Rot, Soul Eater's Gluttony, Dark Harvest, Seed Spam, all that brings with Vile Taint, not even factoring in Soul Flame, AF has very consistent CDs and AoE. It's not too bad, and depending on the right scenario, we've seen it before in Algothar's Academy. If you factor in Soul Flame, Affliction can be exceptionally potent in AoE. Getting into embellishments, trinkets, and other effects when it comes to patch 10.1 for Affliction Warlock, I will say off the bat, I encourage you to run your own sims on raidbots.com. Your character will vary from mine, so these results might not be the same as what you get for your own character. If you don't want to, this is a general template you can follow, but just keep that in mind. Every trinket sim here, so Igneous Flowstone, Vessel, Beacon to the Beyond, Spoils, this is paired with the Clash Trinket, the rare one from Neltharion. So it's Clash Trinket plus Flowstone. Clash Trinket plus Vessel. Clash Trinket plus Beacon to the Beyond. So as far as that's concerned, double equip is looking pretty good for AF. Next patch, as far as the Haunted Soul build is concerned, Igneous Flowstone followed by Vessel, Beacon, Spoils, Radius Fragment, Chromatic Flowstone, so on and so forth. When it comes to embellishments, however, things change a little bit. So Shadow Flame plus Emis, there is a new embellishment in patch 10.1. It is a Shadow Flame embellishment. It says basically this. It gives you a damage effect that stacks to 5, and when it stacks to 5, it's consumed, reducing damage, but at the same time, it looks to be competitive in a single target nonetheless. Interestingly enough, you can wear 2 of these. I'm wearing it on my shoulders and my belt now, as an example. You can wear 2 of these embellishments. They do stack. Now, Double Shadow Flame looks to be basically the same here as Shadow Flame Emis. There is a 50 DPS margin of error here, with a 60 DPS difference between them here. So for the most part, Double Shadow Flame and Shadow Flame Emis are one and the same. Now, when it comes to heavy AoE, you have Shadow Flame plus Lariat ahead of Lariat Emis, and, you know, it varies a bit. But regardless, Lariat pulls ahead in those AoE settings due to secondary stat procs, multiple targets, more damage going out universally. It makes sense. So, in a single target, chances are likely, it's Double Shadow Flame, or at least Shadow Flame X. Shadow Flame X being Emis in single target. But I wouldn't fault you for playing Shadow Flame and Lariat in single target if you want to have a bit of a middle ground kind of build early on when you're planning out your spark usage and things like that. As far as stats are concerned, haste, then mastery, then crit, then verse, and as far as eye level, well, intellect is eye level, and typically eye level reigns supreme. Now, when it comes to pets, you have 4 options as a Warlock, and it is your Imp, Voidwalker, Fellhunter, or Sayad. Now, when it comes to Mythic Plus, your best option, hands down, what you're going to play in 99.9% of every scenario in Mythic Plus, is going to be your Fellhunter. It brings a baseline interrupt in Spell Lock and a Purge called Devour Magic, both of which are very good Mythic Plus based settings, even at times in raiding. Now, as far as raiding itself is concerned, the 3 pets of real option are your Imp, your Fellhunter, and your Sayad. Unfortunately, your Voidwalker, while it does bring a bit of AoE damage with Consuming Shadows, is just not worth it the vast majority of the time. The Imp is a range-based caster versus the Fellhunter and Sayad being melee-based casters. So if there's multiple adds on a fight that spawn, the Imp can just turn from left to right and start attacking them versus the Fellhunter and the Sayad having to run between them. So you lose a little bit of DPS there. However, both Imp damage and Fellhunter damage is normalized. They are one and the same. The Imp brings a Singe magic effect, which can be useful in raiding, removing a harmful magic effect from a player. The Sayad brings a Whiplash ability, which this separates this pet from every other one, essentially making it your best option in single target if no other mobs are spawning or you can maintain the buff. The Whiplash effect applies a damage increase to the target the Sayad is hitting once every 6 seconds, essentially when it stacks to full after a minute, making it take 10% more damage from the Sayad compared to the Imp, the Voidwalker, or the Fellhunter. if that effect is not applied, or if it drops, obviously you're losing damage. If that effect's not applied in some way, shape, or form, all of pet damage is normalized outside of that. The Voidwalker might do a little more AoE with Consuming Shadows. The Imp might do a little more at range, swapping targets faster. But for the most part, outside of that, pet damage is normalized. So the best single target option, if there's one target, Syod. Best pet in Mythic Plus, Fell Hunter. If there are multiple targets in the raid, you don't need to kick in your Fell Hunter, play the Imp. Thanks for watching, guys. That should just about wrap it up. Hopefully the video answered the questions you might have had about Affliction Warlock heading into patch 10.1, Aberrus, and Season 2 of Mythic Plus. Now, like I mentioned, I don't think Affliction's actually that bad. I think the larger issue is that Demonology and Destro are just doing better. Aff's very customizable, good single target, good AoE, good stat cleave, good spread cleave, good council talents, good profiles, but in the end, if the damage is not there, it's just not there. And in the current case of Aff, well, like I said, it's just not there. So if you guys have any questions, be sure to put it down below in the comment section. I'll be sure to get back to you. Also, any weak Warcraft add-ons or profiles is on the video. Links to Twitch and Discord down below. We're all for free for you guys. And like usual, I also want to give one huge final shout out to my patrons. Guys, for all supporting Patreon, thank you a million times. I really appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, should be a link up here, as well as down below in the video description. Barring Destruction and Demonology getting nerfed, I don't really see Affliction being played very much in 10.1 as far as Aberrus and like Mythic Plus is concerned, if things stay the way they are currently tuning wise. If things change, we'll see where it goes. Destro and Demo are ahead by a substantial amount, but at the same time, they're ahead of most classes by a substantial amount. So depending where tuning lands, Affliction's middle of the pack, upper middle of the pack as far as raw damage is concerned, but I wouldn't totally write it off yet. It's still customizable, still has a good profile. And yeah, fingers crossed, because at heart, I do want to play a little bit of Aff in 10.1. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.